Hello and welcome to the Scuttlebutt Podcast, the show for current and former service members who aren't interested in settling. I'm your host, Brock Briggs, coming at you with a different format style today. On previous episodes, I've talked about the platform Veterati, which connects service members who are transitioning, seeking a new career, or just looking to network with other vets. As a mentee, you get to search mentors who have connections and job experiences you're looking for. As a mentor, you get paired up with people looking for advice and needing help. I've had the pleasure of mentoring about 20 people over the last 8 to 9 months and found it extremely rewarding, not only giving back, but from the new connections I've gained because of it. You've heard your network is your net worth. There couldn't be more truth to that. Today's episode, you're hearing a conversation I had with a mentee I got connected with through the platform, Carlos Lopez. Carlos is former SF with a specialty in intelligence and seeking a career in data science. I received permission from him to record our conversation in hopes that someone else can learn from it. You'll be hearing a raw and unedited conversation around the skills needed to enter data science, the landscape of jobs available, how to decide what sector to go into, and how to tailor your resume and experiences that back why you're a great candidate. This was a fun episode for me, and I highly recommend checking out Veterati. I'll also put out an offer to anybody interested. If you're currently active duty, transitioning out, have been out and looking for a new career field, or just want another professional connection, I'm happy to talk with you. Part of why I enjoy doing this podcast so much is I get to learn in order to help and teach others. If I can offer personalized advice for you, please let me know. Reach out to me on social media. My email address is in the show notes. For now, please enjoy this conversation with Carlos Lopez. So do you want to go ahead and basically kind of like maybe introduce yourself a little bit? Tell me, we can get into the data analysis and whatnot, but give me like a little bit of background about like who you are, where you are in like the process of like getting out, or if you're already out. And then we can kind of like dive into the data analysis and go from there.
Yes. So I'm already retired. So I've been out for about 6 months. My background, I started in the military as combat arms, a tanker. Did 10 years on that. Then I moved into SOF, Special Forces, Green Berets, but did intelligence for them. So intelligence. That was my last couple years. I did the full 20 years, but my last, I would say, 5 years at the military intelligence, deployed a couple times. So I felt that, I work with data pretty good, be able to put all kinds of data together or whatnot. I am interested in doing something kind of like the side, right? But one of the biggest problems that I have right now is that trying to translate what I already know to like the civilian world. Mm-hmm. So although I might have a lot of skills and like, you get all this training in the military, like it's just kind of hard to like pinpoint like what is the actual job that does the same thing in the outside. Mm-hmm. So I studied, like I mentioned that I'm doing my MBA. I'll be done with it in about a year. And one of the reasons for that is that too. It's just so I could have some type of civilian qualification just in case. But right now, I'm mainly, I took my first a few months to kind of relax and reset. And now I'm trying to see how can I get back into the workforce. But when I go work, I would like to get a job that enables what I might go, at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really good. And I'm glad that you're like taking some time after retiring. Like, did you do full 20 or did you go over?
Full 20, just the 20. I'll use a little bit over 20, but not much.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. It definitely like warranted some downtime and hopefully get to spend the last few months hanging with some family and recouping. I think one of the best places to start with questions like these is really kind of dig into So you've got this interest in data and like data analysis, but I want to like take a step back and talk to you about what you think that you want to do in terms of like a job. I think that a lot of people when they get out and I like went through this myself. And so I'm speaking from personal experiences. Like I was very focused on, hey, this is like the job that I'm trying to pursue and not thinking a lot about like maybe the life that I was trying to live. And because I guess a little bit of my background, like I was interested in finance and I thought that I wanted to go and work in New York City, work on Wall Street, do the whole like traditional finance route. And as I got further into it, I found that, going an entry level position doing that, I'm going to be working 60 to 80 hours a week and just like really grinding on that like life. And when I kind of found that out, I realized that wasn't actually what I wanted. And so one of the things that I think is helpful is to kind of frame what you see yourself doing, what type of work environment that you see yourself working in. Is it, working from home? Do you want to be in an office? Do you want to be working with other people or solo? Asking those types of questions and then kind of can narrow back to the job that kind of meets those qualifications, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it makes sense because definitely, after grinding in the military and being called at different times, you got your little duties at random times or losing weekends, and
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't want to be losing weekend. I want to have the time with my family.
Right.
So I do would like some autonomy. Like I would like to be able to take care, like really, like maybe like a remote, something that if I need to take care of my kids, go pick them up or whatnot, I could still do that and finish the task because I'm really good at finishing whatever somebody tells me that needs to be done, right? And I don't necessarily have to be sitting down from 9 to 5 at a desk to do, to accomplish that. So I could probably
Right.
accomplish more and not sit there, all those times. But I feel like sometimes wasting, sometimes, you could waste some time, and I don't like wasting time.
Yeah, me either. I'm in the exact same boat. And a lot of times with your job, we're coming out of a job where the military like was your life and job. And now like you have the opportunity to like separate those things and say, hey, we can have your job, but then you can also have your home life.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of the cool things and why I'm a really big proponent of working remotely is because when you understand what the job needs to be complete, quote unquote, you can self-manage and self-direct and like get into a position where you can kind of make your own schedule as long as you're meeting your own deadlines. And finding employers that kind of work with that type of working rather than saying, hey, you need to be clocked in from 9 to 5 or whatever that looks like.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the thought. That's really like, I guess at the end of the day, that's more what I'm looking for, and
Mhm.
just like I noticed that that's another thing that I noticed about the data analytics. Like I noticed that a lot of positions, some of them were remote, and I think that attracted me to it.
Yeah, no, that I think that is spot on. A lot of those analyst type positions, you're going to be working remotely. So we've kind of established that you like the idea of working remotely and maybe working self-directed or asynchronously. And I want to make a call out about what these types of questions maybe seem redundant a little bit, but I think it's helpful because you have just like eliminated a bunch of jobs that knowing that you want to work remotely, you have like instantly any job that's in person, you can just scratch it off. And when you're approaching jobs, it's easier to eliminate things rather than saying, what can I do? I could do anything. Like, no, we gotta narrow down the focus a little bit.
Yeah.
So the next question that I have is what kind of gets you interested in data analytics, data analysis to begin with? I'm sure that you kind of had a wide ranging experience across a lot of different things, 20 years in the service. What kind of leads you to being interested in that to begin with?
Well, one, I guess it began with the word analysis, right? I just coming out of the field of intelligence analysis, I I thought, because it's not really the truth, but I thought, that if I did something with analysis and I get another job like financial analyst, analyst or anything that has analyst at the end, I will match. But well, y'all know that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, as I started going to school, and I'm doing some Python and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself in some projects that I would, like, let's say I'll get a set of data, and I would start exploring the data, and then it's like I found myself going further than, let's say, the assignment, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, like I have fun through that. It was more like I like something that I could do for a long time. I didn't feel like it was work. It felt like it was like just exploration and trying to find a way to show somebody something that they're not seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and that you get to find that, I guess, that diamond in, yourself. So I think that's kind of what lead me to a little bit that the fact that, that I found when I looked around in the internet for like jobs, what remote jobs. I noticed that a lot of those jobs were remote, and then I figured that I had like a strong analytic background too.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that will help, and give me an edge when it comes to that career.
I think that it's a really good sign when you're talking about you're looking at a data set or something like that, and you get excited about finding something and then like being able to share that with somebody. Like that is such a good indicator that you're like on the right track for like finding a career that aligns with your personal interests. So that's super exciting. Like good for you, and that's a great realization. Do you find yourself, I know you said you're working on your MBA right now. Do you find yourself drawn to understanding business, or are you just more in and like, well, let me back up. Do you find yourself more interested in business, or do you find yourself focusing on just, hey, here's the data and here's how I've like shaped it and here's what we can find and then now I'm done with it? Where do you kind of
So,
like fall on that spectrum?
so I do like business, and I do like finance. So I would say I would say that I might be business fanatic and finance fanatic. I like to even like look at the markets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I could get any type of data set and enjoy it. So I mean, I would love to do something with business or finance, numbers, but I think data, just any exploration, any data will works for me.
I got you. The reason I ask that is because usually it's more of a natural fit and you automatically kind of like guide yourself into whatever one you should be into. But there's kind of two different paths that you can go with. Data analytics roles or analyst roles is more of like a business analyst or a data analyst, like a pure data analyst. Pure data analysts are usually people that don't really like to talk to other people. They want to focus on just the information. They don't really care about what that means, but like they'll figure it out, they'll rehash it, they'll do whatever they have to do, and then they'll hand it off and say, I'm done. And they're really good at that. They're extreme, they're very, very smart. And that end of the spectrum tends to be very heavy on the technical skills, the coding, database understanding, that kind of side, more technical. The business side will be less proficient on the technical stuff, probably some knowledge of coding and understanding databases and whatnot, but they will and actually have more of an interest in the application of that information. So they will be able to take and model the information and then say, here's what we can actually do with that. Like we're looking at a big data set for, a certain business, and here's how we can drive business results with that information. And generally those people like talking to people more. These are kind of broader generalizations, but this is from what my personal experience, what I see is you can either go very technical and avoid people, or if you're good with people and like kind of the application of it, then you tend to be more on the business side. And I think that the MBA certainly kind of, to me, the fact that you're getting that and pursuing that tells me that you might be more on the business side. But I would want to hear from you if you think that if that kind of aligns with your interests.
Yes, I think so. I think it's definitely more in the business side because going back to my past, I like to sit there and share my findings with people. So I will grind through it, but I also will find some love with the interactions and trying to figure things out with other people, especially if it's about their business and a way that we can improve our business and do something big, that still had that drive, I left the military, but still got the drive of trying to achieve something more, So I think more in the business side,
I think so too. Just from everything that you've said to me so far, I think that aligns more. And it's a field that's really in demand. I will say and again, I'm only going to be speaking from my experience. I'm probably going to say that a bunch more times, but I can only really speak to what I know and what I've seen. But going into this field initially, I really thought a lot of the stuff was common sense, like understanding charts, like displaying data in different ways seemed like very obvious to me. But and that's why I'll get into this a little bit later, but I'm pursuing a master's in data analytics right now. And it almost seemed redundant because it just was obvious. I was like, how could you not like see through this stuff? And it's not, like, it really isn't. The amount of people in my job currently and outside of this, that you show them a table of information, a simple XY axis, a couple lines, and the fact that you have to explain that to them it's mind-boggling sometimes, and it's super frustrating. And so there is a very, very large gap there where they need people who understand the technical side and can explain it to executives, people who are just less technical, because that and like the business analyst role kind of fits in that middle segment. And I don't think that really used to be there. Over the last like probably 10 years, it's kind of like widened and made a spot for that. But to me, where we are coming from is a place where you're like kind of a people person or you're a tech person. There's not really, but that role lies squarely in the middle, and being able to do both is powerful for sure.
Yeah. And I like, I think that I would be attracted to something like that. Yeah. And but one of the challenges now is sometimes I ask myself, because you have so I know a little bit, let's say a little bit of R, a little bit of MySQL and Python, and then, but my question is, how much do you need? Yeah, well, I know, I mean, I could be like an expert on it, but like within, let's say, a year of me leaving the military, if I wanted to be an expert on one of them, I would have to take only one. And it's like I'm trying to make a decision on like, well, what should I know? How much should I know to at least get started and not having to like wait 4 years so that I could like be completely like SQL and Python, a complete programmer before I could actually do something,
Right. So are you asking how much you need to know to get into the field, or are you asking like which one of those things you should focus on the most?
I'm more in the, like, for example, like, okay, I could grab, like, for one example, I could grab R, and which I did, and I could download, get some data and do the basics. I could run some regression on the data. I could do you your regular plot charts and decision trees and whatnot. I'm able to do that. So like I could grab the data and exploit it to to a certain point, right? But I can't sit there and write a program or anything like that on Python, right? Like I could look through it, a set of data, but I can't. Right? So I also know different ways of displaying. Even if I don't have that one tool, I know a different ways of display the data, even if it's like using Excel or Power BI or whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but usually when you see the job description, it's like, well, you need to know Python, you need to know this. Usually they'll throw all three on you. You need to know R, Python, and SQL, and you're like, well, I can't apply for this one, because I don't know. And it's like, I don't know, really. I'm just trying to get to the entry point at least, and that's the one of the biggest challenges right now. And I might have everything that I need to make a company successful, but it's just that I guess sometimes the way that it's painted on the job application is like you're asking for the superhero, right? And then it's like, oh, I wish I had everything, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't even. Some of those job descriptions are ludicrous. Like you said, they're asking for Superman. They're asking for somebody who's just like a 10 out of 10 expert in everything. A job application that says that you need to be like a 10 out of 10 expert in all of those things, I would be very leery of. From my experience and what I see, first of all, we'll even just like take this back and dial back to like looking at individual programming languages. If you know one really, really well, the others kind of come along. There's different like
Variations.
the function. Yeah, it's a variations, R to Python. It's like how you print stuff, like how you assign variables and stuff. It just minute differences, but kind of the same concepts apply. And so I think that knowing one really well makes others kind of, you pick them up easier. Talking with people who are wanting data manipulated, I don't think that it matters that much. I think that if you go in there and say, I am aware of how to use Python and this, but I am an absolute expert with this one, and a lot of this kind of depends on the job too. So, if you're applying for a programming role, they probably will really want you to know a bunch about each. And this is the beauty of like the more business development or business analyst side is you don't really need to be an expert in all of those things. Just some of the things that you're saying right now that you're already able to do are like leaps and bounds above like what like an entry level business analyst is going to need to get in there. If you can run a regression, and just the fact that you know what that is, that's huge. That's really, really big, and that's a good thing for you. And it sounds like you are comfortable enough to like you could get a data set loaded into multiple different languages and at least look and examine from there. What I would say would be extremely helpful, and it sounds like you're kind of leaning more towards R as like your language.
Yeah, I like R.
I would lean into it. And while I think it's good to be well-rounded and kind of know a little bit of each, I think that kind of comes with knowing more about one. And I think it is really good to know one really, really well. And, maybe that means that you apply to jobs that like are our focus, but really only where that's going to make a difference is if you're applying to a programming job. They're probably going to be a little bit more particular about what languages that you're using because it has to do with what business processes are run on that information. The beauty of the biz part is that you're kind of in this translation field where you're taking stuff from the programming end and you're kind of like talking through that with like the business side. I don't think that they're going to care what language you use. The fact that you're able to get the information and draw the insights and say, this is what we need to do with that is going to be way more valuable than the biz devs and the executive people. They don't care what language you're using, and the business results, the results don't care as long as you are able to manipulate the data in a way that you understand it and can draw insights from it. And that is less about language specificity and more about your understanding of the business and how do we apply that to whatever data we're looking at and what to look for in terms of things that we can improve.
Yeah. And I do believe, and that's like sometimes I felt like sometimes it's like a shame, because so I run into that problem myself, when I was in doing the intelligence field, and where I myself found myself like asking for help of some uh, intelligence organizations, bigger or US based, and what will happen is I will get somebody like, let's say, graduated college or graduated, and he had all this qualification. Let's say he for example purposes, say like, let's say he was extreme art programmer, right? Or whatever it was. And then but when you try to, the information was there, but then when you ask the question, well, what does this mean to me? It like the person will go blank. And there's a lot of times there is like a balance between a person that could like look at, that you mentioned, a data set and tell you exactly what's going on with it, versus like just knowing like a language and be able to pull the information, and then not being able to like make a decision out of it. And I do, would like to learn the languages and everything good, so I could actually comfortably get in. But I also now, I think I mentioned that before. Now, as I finish my degree, I'm looking to start working, on doing something, on the side. But I also would like to have something that, when I not just that when I put in the application, shows that I know how to do data analysis, but something that improves, I guess, my knowledge of it. So I don't know if there were roles out there that were like the data analyst helper. I don't know what, something like that you could actually go and do. I'm looking to do an internship here on I think it starts next summer in the May. I think it's May or June through August, with I think the Lumen Technologies, and I'm applying to it. Hopefully that works through. But that's kind of one of the ways that I'm looking into getting that experience.
Were you able to use any of like your programming knowledge and kind of like your data analysis muscles in your head at your position while you were in the military?
Oh yeah, that's what I did for the last I would say the last 5 years. It's just that, like, in the military you don't have like, I didn't have to go and use R or SQL, right? Like, I just like, we have one of our main program was, which is a company that's known now, is like Palantir, right? And they did everything. You just like push a couple buttons and extract it, right? And so I think it would be the equivalent of using something like we mentioned before, like Power BI or something like that, where it's like you don't really need to know the language. The data set just gets thrown in there, and you could just grab things and move them around and make the charts and make everything. So I have to do more of that, to where I use a program that was already designed and then just manipulated the data within. Now, the languages I just started learning now because I just noticed that it was necessary, or it was, a requirement. Like, when every time I saw a job description, but the languages are new. The data, I mean, that's I would look at data for a week and and I try to find the inside outs of it, and something I come out with something out of it. Something. Yeah.
One of the things that I would be sure to do and include on your resume, I'm not sure if you've gone through like a resume building like workshop or anything like that is, but if you're applying for these types of jobs, I would absolutely be certain to talk about, and maybe it's just like you have a bullet point, and then like which gets them to ask you about it, because some of these examples that you might have are probably fairly complex and too much to actually type out on a resume. But I would have some examples of times that you use those skills, like understand what like the problem was, here's what I did, and here's what the outcome of that was. That's where people really want to see that. And I think that employers being able to see how you already have exercised that muscle and how that could benefit the company that you're applying to, that it's going to make them want that. So I would be sure to, as you like kind of list out on your thing, an experience, a lot of people will just have like a bullet of like, oh, I was responsible. A lot of the military resume translators are, as a Green Beret, responsible for $100 million of
Yeah, that's like
equipment and did this. And it's like, that's all fine and that's great, but that doesn't mean anything to the company. I would personally, and what I try to coach and like push people towards is maybe have one line about what that job actually means, like what were you responsible for, but then tailor the position to say, hey, if you're applying for a data analyst role, this was a problem. And you kind of almost frame a particular experience and talk about how you use skills to influence a positive outcome. Or if it wasn't a positive outcome, what you learned from it, and be able to talk to that specifically. And like I said, you probably can't like fit all of that on your resume, but tee it up for them. And they're going to ask, like, they're going to look through it and be like, hey, I see here that you were framed with this problem and like you got to this outcome. What does that mean? Like, can you tell me about that? And that's where like we military people are going to really shine, is when we can tell them about, hey, there was this crazy complex problem. And it's also exacerbated by the fact that civilians generally won't understand the military experience, so they
yeah,
automatically think it's like bigger and crazier than it is.
yeah,
But you can like kind of whoop it up and like use that to your advantage. And that I think is much more applicable and relevant to your future employer, because you're trying to sell yourself. You're trying to say, hey, I've got the skills to do what it is that this job requirement says. They want to know how you have done that in the past.
yeah,
And you've got a ton of experience already. And I know that you probably got a whole list of times where you've applied that kind of muscle
yeah,
already.
yeah. No, definitely. And I think one of them is like, the most common thing that happened was like, right, you get, and actually let me back up on that. It's like a little bit, so there is a gray line, just because it's intelligence, right? Intelligence, a lot of intelligence end up being thrown into a classified bucket or something. So you can't really, but the basis of it, you could, the data set was let's call it a group of targets, right? You get a high number of targets, and you have to decide which one is the best one to take care of, right? And then so just with that alone, I mean, you have to run like a full scale analysis that basically through it, and there is a lot of things that go into the why this target and not this other one. What the qualities of this one item versus the qualities of this other item that makes it more suitable for you to neither easier to do or valuable or more valuable to take care of, right? So yes, you have to like brainstorm that stuff, and that's what I did. So I feel like that compares a little bit sometimes with some other business problems that people get into, like, should we get together with this company or should we not get together with this company? Oh, well, let's look at all the data, shall we? And then you take it from there.
Right. That's exactly right. And having those experiences front of mind, like I said, I would maybe list out 2 or 3 experiences that you've had that you can tee up on your resume and pull the employer into your court. And that's where you can really talk about that individual time that where you did that, and draw some parallels and have something teed up about, and this is kind of emphasizes the importance of knowing who you're applying to. If you're
Okay.
applying to a Palantir, a company like that, let's just say, for example, knowing the mission of what that company is trying to do, you can apply that directly. That's the time to kind of like make that crossover and say, hey, here's how I did this thing. Here's how the outcome of that came to be and why that was good. And then I also see some parallels in how we could do that at your business, and man, they're going to eat it up. Like they really will like hearing that type of things. And you're bringing them into a place where you've got the confidence, like you've got your experience and you can speak directly to it, and they will love to hear it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. You sound like you're in a really good place on this, man. This is an exciting place to be. Are you enjoying your MBA experience?
Yeah. I am. I think it's fun. I'm not well. So before I was, so I'm getting pretty good grades and everything is going really good. It's kind of weird, to me because I guess I had to attribute a lot of that to like my military, like I guess military work ethic,
Hmm.
call it that. Because before I joined the military, I wasn't the had good grades, passable grades, but it wasn't as good as they are now, And I think like for being at the MBA level and writing the things that I'm writing, and it is again the same thing, I think I role thing, especially from being the intelligence, which is again another thing, is like being in the intelligence community. I wrote things that were going to get read by people pretty high up there. Because I mean, when you're making a decision about what you're gonna do in Afghanistan, it gets read by. So I think it taught me how to talk, write, and present things. And sometimes now I'm doing this MBA class, which is a business. It will look completely irrelevant, but then when I get these assignments, it's like I already did them. It's like, you write this paper on this, and I'm like, oh, excuse me. I have written a paper to this level already. I could knock
Hmm.
that out pretty easy, and so it's been good. I'm not saying MBA. I think MBA is challenging, but I'm glad for the experience that I have so far. It's helping and it's easy.
It's funny how easy school seems when you've been like given that military work ethic. I said the exact same thing. I tried college before I joined the Navy, did not do very well. Everything seemed very hard, and then kind of coming back to my undergraduate after exiting, and I was like, how did I think that this was difficult before?
Yeah,
It's kind of like the volume and the difficulty of things got turned down quite a bit.
yeah.
As a side note, that's something you should absolutely include as part of your experience. Like when you tee it up on the resume, is talk about how you took your insights that you gained in intelligence and you wrote something up that X person read and it led to this bigger outcome. That's huge. That's critical. And that's part of like the business analyst role. You need to be able to put it in plain English for somebody to read. Like what's the takeaway? It's great that the regression means this and all of that. You can use all these technical fancy terms, but like if we don't know, hey, this is what the takeaway is and this is what we need to do today, then it's kind of useless. So I would just be sure to include that in your experience as you're thinking about that.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, this is actually opening my mind to a lot of that stuff. Like, it's like I'm just talking to you. I'm starting to see these things I wish I didn't have included on my resume. So I gotta make sure I include that, and then also like the way that I was able to do intelligence, in the past, so that it's or how it actually like go hand to hand to pretty much analyzing data, you know.
Mhm.
So
One thing I'll be sure to do at the end here is I'll give you my email. And I would, well, if you want, I am not an expert really in anything, but if you would like, I would be happy and would love to like look at your resume and give you like some critique if you want it,
okay,
and kind of like help agitate some of those experiences. And I'm not a hiring manager, like full stop on that. Like I'm not hiring anybody, but I probably can speak to writing a good resume and would be happy to help you with that if you need it.
okay, awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
for
no
that.
problem. What so what types of you kind of hinted at this a little bit earlier, but is there specific companies? I know you're applying for this internship as well, but where do you see yourself working at long term? Like, is there a specific company that you would just say it would be the best if I worked here?
I think I used to be attracted to something like IBM,
Hmm.
but now my I would like really. I would like to do something more like consulting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just don't. Again, going back to I guess the beginning, it's like if I need to work for a single company, it's fine. But I like that autonomy, that freedom. Knocking things out.
Mm-hmm.
I could be a consulting company where I just like target a specific problem a company is having, and then from there, move to the next company, to the next company, to the next company. If I had to go to a single company, then it would have to be. I would like to be something like a more like a tech company, like that was I say like IBM, Google. Like I know those are big companies out there, but that's more what I see. I think this internship is Lumen, which is I think the Comcast. They used to be Comcast. Okay, the same, and it's a data analyst role internship they got for next summer. So those companies, anything tech, uh, which I guess I didn't mention this either. So before intelligence, so when you start in software, you get to be needed 4 jobs. So it's you could be a weapons, you could be an engineer, you could be a medic, or you could be communications. So my background before intelligence was communications, and I think that's why like I also feel comfortable in the communication type of technology type of companies, because I understand a lot of their things. So any business, strong communications and strong intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that role, that like business kind of analyst position is going to be very valuable, because that's what consulting really is like we're going to come in, like external consultants come in and they say, hey, let's take a look at the business and like develop a plan for executing and like turning something around, making it better, et cetera, et cetera. The like premier consulting company, somebody maybe you could consider, I think that they're all in person. I don't know if you could do remote, but McKinsey. Um,
About them.
McKinsey's that's like the name in consultancy, and
Yeah.
really sets the groundwork. I have talked to a couple people on the podcast before who have worked at McKinsey. Be happy to make the introduction there if you would like that, or if that would be helpful. Do you have a clearance? I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do. I just don't know how long it's gonna last because I'm not using it. So I
Yeah,
think it
yeah.
lasts like about a year, 2 years. But yeah, I came out with a good clearance. Yeah.
Okay. I know that there's like some websites too that like target jobs with that require clearances, clearancejobs.com or .net
Yeah.
or something. That might be a good place to go. The some of the defense contractors too, if you want to like stay around military related things. I don't know if that's your really like your passion, but they would always have a need for something like that as well.
It is. I don't have any issue with working a contractor or like military. I think the one of the reasons why I was leaning not to is because when you work like that, sometimes you get restricted to just certain places in the U.S. you could live, right? And
Mhm.
I just wanted to have that, you know, able to live anywhere I want to, and yeah, I do the job. I
Mhm.
just didn't want to be tied into the location.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you opposed to working at like a startup or like a new company?
No, 'cause, actually, I never they didn't talk about that either. But um, how does that how does that work? You know.
Well, one of the places I was thinking that you could be checking for jobs, and a lot of the roles that are hired for on this platform are developer slash more technical roles. So with a background in that, you could kind of work, kind of leverage some of your experience into that. Have you heard of AngelList?
No.
So AngelList it's a lot of different things. They have a ton of different arms that they do, but they have like a job board for startups, and not just startups. There are some like more established companies, but there is a large presence for hiring technical people on AngelList. And we'll get details afterwards, and I'll send you the link to it so that you have it.
Okay.
but that might also be a good place to check out. I know that technical roles are always in demand for new companies, and depending on your life situation and circumstances, sometimes joining a startup might be a little bit scary. You may not get paid a ton, and you're maybe like promised equity in exchange for a lower salary. But if you have some meet the right person and like find a company trying to change the world in some space that you are passionate about, maybe that would be an option as well.
Yeah. I didn't know about that. That's good. And I also wrote it down to explore it.
Yeah, absolutely. What other kind of questions do you have, and how else can I be of assistance to you?
No, I think that these were the main ones, and I think I just wanted to like make sure that it looked like I was going in the right direction, because I know like just by by being in the military, like with all the years, like I remember like sometimes seeing somebody that would tell me like, oh, I'm gonna join, right, or something like that, and they will say what job they're going after or something, or MOS for that matter, and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, you should think about this, and this, and I feel like it's the same, like I'm coming out now. I'm the private coming out of the military. Well, I'm the private of the word, and like trying to get uh, people that have experience already to tell me like what should I consider, coming out, because I understand that there is a lot I don't know, and because it's a lot I wasn't paying attention to per se when I was in there, because I was focused on other stuff.
Right. Yeah, it is a little bit of a daunting feeling, and it does sometimes feel like you step into another world that it has kind of been going on without you, so to speak, and it is a little bit scary, but don't let that downplay any kind of like feelings about your abilities coming back into the workplace, because you're a very highly qualified and a very highly qualified individual that would be an asset for any company to have. Yeah, demonstrated hard work. You're doing all the right things, it sounds like to me. And so, yeah, don't let that get in the way. It's good that you're talking to people, though. I think it's that's a really underutilized resource. Especially if you're looking to get on at a certain company and somebody there already, reach out to them. LinkedIn, Veterati is a great place to kind of meet and talk with other people, but don't be afraid to use those and pull those levers. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Your listenership helps me better educate people like you and the rest of our nation's military, both past and present, on building a successful life outside of military service. If you're looking for more ways the top vets are leading more effective lifestyles, building businesses, and using the resources designed specifically for you, press here for a selection of some of the best clips. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, and I will be talking with you soon.